Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's a little bit different. We're not in the garden, we're in the kitchen. Here we go. So, like I said in the intro, we're in the kitchen today. Specifically, what we gotta do is turn all this bumper crop of Roma tomatoes into some salsa. So here we go. All right, so my salsa recipe that I use calls for 7 to 8 cups of diced Roma tomatoes. The Roma tomatoes that I have usually equal about 3/4 of a cup per tomato. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut up 10 of these and we'll call it 7 cups. So I make sure that I wash them so they're actually sitting in a water bath right now. I rinse them off before I cut them, but here we go. Take the ends off, flip it, take that end off. I have another bowl that's right here. I cut it down the middle, and then what I'm doing is I will cut it into 4ths on that chunk, and then actually come back through and dice it up. You can peel these or blanch them. I just don't feel the need to do it. I like my salsa a little bit chunkier, so does my family, so this works well for us. Certain tomato varieties, if they're a little bit thicker skin, I would recommend that you do this, but if you're gonna actually take the skins off, which is a little bit more of a longer process, but it's not too bad. Just kind of requires a little bit more planning. So we got 2 tomatoes in there. I'm gonna take them and dump them in my stock pot right here. So there's my 1 1/3 or 1 1/2 cups right now. We're gonna keep going on this, and then we'll move on to the next ingredient. Personal preference on this, so you can see the core of the tomato. If you don't want that, it all ends up cooking down in my experience, so it really doesn't matter. You can actually just cut it out and have your chunk like that and cut this part out right there if you don't want that part. I personally like a little bit more of a chunkier salsa, so that's why I leave it in there. Just adds a little bit more flavor. A lot of this stuff with tomatoes, they're predominantly water, right? They're almost like a watermelon, but just a vegetable version. Actually, they are a fruit, but they're gonna cook down a lot, okay? So you decide how chunky you want your salsa. If you want it like a restaurant style, if you go to a Mexican restaurant or a Tex-Mex restaurant, it's really kind of smooth, not really chunky. You can do this in a food processor as well and really get it down to the consistency that you want. Like I said, I prefer a little bit more of a chunkier salsa. I like to load it up on a chip, or we put it on eggs, we do nachos, all that type of stuff. I want it loaded up, especially with tacos and all that stuff. So that's why I like the texture to be a little bit chunkier, bigger, and then kind of just going from there. All right, next up we need to do 1 1/2 cups of onion. I have 2 different onions here that's from our garden. I have a yellow onion and a white onion. Now after this, so we'll dice this up. We'll put it in our stock pot here. Then after that, we're gonna take and add our peppers. So we need 1.5 cups of peppers, and then 1.5 cups of whatever kind of spicy peppers you want. So I'm gonna use my garden salsa peppers here, and then my Megatron jalapenos here. If you like more peppers, you can add more bells. If you want spicier, you can use spicier peppers. I find that our garden salsa ones, actually when they're just starting to turn, which these are not, but when they just start turning red, these get very, very spicy. These are kind of on the mild. Again, Megatron jalapenos, they are great for stuffing peppers if you want stuffed jalapenos as well. So we're gonna dice these up and get them into our stock pot. So as you can see, it's all starting to come together in here. So we got our onions, our peppers, 2 different kinds of peppers, actually 3, sorry, and then our Roma tomatoes. Next up is 3 cloves of garlic. This is the first of the few ingredients that I actually had to store buy. Everything else is grown from our garden. So 3 cloves of garlic, we're gonna mince this up and then add it to our pot. So some tricks in the kitchen for you if you're new to this to actually get that coating off of your garlic, because this is what you're looking for. So you want to peel off that skin, right? We just want this, we don't want this. You take your knife, the flat part, and just squish down on top of it. That'll crack it open, and then you just have to easily peel all this off, get rid of that, and then you're left with your clove of garlic. So push down, you'll hear it crack, or squeeze or squish, and then you're just gonna look for it to separate, and there you go. So I got my 4. Usually what I do is I actually cut this portion off right there on all of those, just because it's a little bit hard. I don't want crunchy garlic in my salsa or when I cook. I do a lot of cooking with onions and garlic just because I love the flavors. And I also love the smells when you're actually cutting it up. So it's actually pretty cool. And then from here, we're just gonna do what we did before. Dice it up. I wish you guys could smell all this stuff. We got onions and peppers, which is great flavors and smells right now going on in my kitchen, which is absolutely amazing. Now to mince this up, we're gonna make a little pile like this, and then now this is the fun part. We just go through and we're gonna start cutting up. And make sure it stays on your cutting board. Kind of resetting that pile every few passes. So I do about 1 or 2 passes. Clean off my blade, repile it. And mince it up. So now you're left with something that looks like that, which is perfect. So I did 4 cloves because I love garlic. We're gonna put that in our stock pot. That pretty much takes care of our garden ingredients. Now we're gonna add a little bit more stuff just with spices. So here's our lineup. We're gonna do a 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste, 3/4 cup of white distilled vinegar. If you're canning this, make sure you're using 5% acidity. 4% will not get it to the food requirement safety level. So if you can it, you have to eat it kind of right away. So you can do fridge salsa as long as you're going to eat it within 7 to 10 days. If you're going to can this, which I do, make sure you have 5%. So 3/4 cup here, 2 teaspoons here of salt, and then we have 1 teaspoon of pepper, cumin, and oregano. So here we go. This is our finished product with our dry ingredients, I'll call them, all mixed in here with the vinegar. We are going to bring this to a boil. Usually set it at about 7 or 8 on my stove. Once it gets to a boil, after we mix this all up, we're gonna let it simmer or kind of medium heat for 30 minutes. Then after 30 minutes, we're gonna put it in our cans and we will be ready to can this up to store over the winter. So while this is coming to a boil, we can go back and clean up our mess, because this is going to take about 30 minutes over there, and we can clean this stuff up and get ready for the next step. All right, so 10-minute update here. As you can see, everything's starting to break down a little bit. Make sure you're stirring this about every 5 to 6 minutes, because we don't want the bottom to scorch. Okay, so you see as I stir it, the bubbling kind of stops. But we're just gonna keep doing this for another 20 minutes. But now we need to get started on our next step for our canning process. Any guesses how I do my canning? Leave a comment below what your guess is. Here's a pretty big hint. On top of the other one that you saw me filling up. So if you guessed it right, we're gonna put that big stock pot, and this is pretty much just a glorified turkey fryer. I used to use this to brew beer back in the day. So we got a propane tank, we're gonna light it up, get that to boiling, and then we'll put our jars in there and we'll boil those jars for 15 minutes so they seal shut. Here is my starting lineup for canning. So a funnel, a ladle, so you can actually ladle it into there, and then a tongs that you can actually pull out of the boiling hot water after it's done. So make sure you have clean, sanitized pint jars. You can use quart jars as well. I've done that before. What we'll do is we'll put this on here. We're gonna take our hot salsa, we'll ladle it in there, leave about an inch of head space, which is roughly almost to that first little brim right there. And then we'll take our lids and our screw caps and put them on. Here are our ball mouth lids. So we have wide, which I have 4 of those over there, and then a regular one. And then what we'll do is we'll take our lids here and then screw them on. So all this stuff is available, links down below, including this stuff that I bought actually on Amazon as well. 10 minutes to go update. So we got 10 more minutes of this slow boil. As you can see, my jars are ready to rock and roll. And we have our hot water bath heating up. And I don't know if I mentioned it before in this video already, but you need to make sure that your jars are sanitized and your screw top lids are sanitized, okay? Otherwise, this will not store correctly. You're gonna introduce bacteria and other things into your food, and it's just gonna be a mess, okay? If you don't wanna do canning, this recipe, you can actually just put it in Tupperware containers and eat it out of the fridge out of the next 7 to 10 days, okay? But if you're like me, we have a ton of tomatoes that we need to get through and preserve and go through, so we're gonna do the canning method. So make sure everything is sanitized. All right, so here we go. We got our 30-minute boil done. Our salsa is ready to go in the jars. We're gonna replace this with this. Take it, and we're gonna ladle it in. So like I said, about 1 inch headspace from the top. So it's about right there, as you can see. Move on to the next jar. If you had any dribble on here, you'd wipe it off. So we're gonna take our lid, put it on top, and we just go hand tight on these. We're gonna line it up, hand tight right there. Move on to the next one. So they are out of their hot water bath, and that's the exact sound you're looking for. That is sealing it down. That's what you want to see. If it wasn't, there'd be a little bubble still sticking up right there. But now that it's compressed down, this is sealed tight, and you're good to preserve this up to a year. But you might be asking yourself right now, well, what if I don't hear that pop, or I still see that bubble sitting on top of there? It doesn't happen right away. It could take up to a full day. But if you just leave these out on the counter for a full day, maybe even 2 days, if it's still up, then you need to just open this and eat it as quick as possible. It'll still store in the fridge up to 7 to 10 days, but it just won't seal down and preserve like these other ones. So there you have it. There is a simple, easy to follow salsa recipe. If you haven't already, check it out in the description below. I have exactly how to do everything, including canning, if that's the route that you want to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, take those growing green thumbs, smash the like button for me. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. As we're moving out of our harvest and growing season into the fall here, even though it's 85 degrees here right now, we're still trying to squeeze out some growing days as much as possible. You'll start to see more of these videos. What am I doing in the kitchen? How am I preserving all the stuff that we grew here over this 2025 growing season? So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, I will see you all next time.